Yeah, my name is Sven Rosbach. I am originally from Germany, so that's where the German last name comes from. But I've been living in China for quite some time now, and I'm heading up the TubeMogul China office. TubeMogul is all about branding, online branding with video. And of course, brand advertising used to be simple. Back in the 50s, companies like Procter & Gamble taught us that TV is the only medium to create mass awareness. And that worked well up until the 80s or 90s, when you could easily reach an entire family with a brand ad on a popular TV commercial. Now, back in the 80s, a family in China may not have looked exactly like this, but today, even in China, a modern family looks much more like this. With everyone on their own devices, consuming different content, you'll be really lucky if you can reach an entire family with just one ad. So, as brand advertisers, you have to be where your customers, where your users are spending their time, and that increasingly is online. Online video is the best vehicle for brand marketing online, and so we see this trend already in the steadily growing video advertising market here for comparison in the US. But we are here to talk about China, and the Chinese numbers are so much more impressive. I mean, how is this for explosive growth? The Chinese online video advertising market is actually set to surpass the US market by the end of this year or maybe early next year. But you think this is impressive? Still, let's put this in perspective a little bit. Compared to the advertising budget spent on TV, it's still very small. Agencies, big brands are still spending more and more budget on TV, and that even though people are spending less and less time watching TV. So I don't have the full data set for the entire timeline, but the trend is pretty clear. If you're still spending more and more of your brand dollars on TV, you may want to reconsider. Another data point here is this trend of moving online is also very visible in the share that online video is taking out of all the money that is being spent online. In the US, that's set to reach 7.5% by the end of this year. But again, let's bring China back into the picture, and the line literally goes off the chart. 20%, I mean, really a fifth of all money spent online will be going towards online video. And why is that so much more than in the US? Well, for one thing, in the US and also here in Europe, people are or have long been used to paying for premium video content. Almost everyone has a cable TV subscription, for example. You have companies like Amazon, Netflix, Apple with the iTunes Store, Hulu, who managed to establish successful business models based on paid-for content. But in China, the average income is still somewhat lower. Pirated content is much more readily available. So people are not as willing to spend money. On top of that, you have the government coming out with ever more draconian rules. So now, no more commercial interruptions during the popular, politically correct drama shows. No more advertising for certain luxury items on TV. That's supposed to curb corruption. That's one of the ways. So, as a brand advertiser, and on this background, what do you do? Well, if I look at our system, our online system, and try to set up a new campaign, I set up here a standard pre-roll 15-second ad targeting France, I can see there are over 100,000 sites that your video campaign can run on. And to be honest, the numbers are slightly inflated because all the YouTube channels count as a separate site in our system, but it's fair to say that there are still tens of thousands of sites that your ad can run on. Now, of course, they are not all French sites, but even French people watch TV, they use Facebook, they use other global sites, global media outlets, and you can reach all of them. Now, going back to China, that doesn't quite work. So obviously China is a bubble floating out there in cyberspace with its own rules. And there is no Facebook, there is no YouTube, there is no New York Times. Everything is banned. Most of these tens of thousands of sites that you saw earlier are not reachable for a Chinese audience. So what do you do? So any web developer in the audience, anyone who knows how to set up websites? Nobody. Oh, there's somebody, wonderful. So fantastic, you and we get together, you take some off-the-shelf open source software, you throw together a video site. Well, I go register a new company, sign up with some ad network, and next week we're gonna be rolling in millions. Easy, right? So, of course, in China, it's not quite that easy. Because in China, you need licenses. And if you're dealing with online video, you need many of them. This is a screenshot of the Youku homepage. Youku, of course, often built as the Chinese YouTube. On the bottom, you see all the different licenses that they need to operate their business. These licenses are very expensive and very difficult to get. That means our little business idea is unfortunately not going to work in China. And it means that only big players with really deep pockets can play in this game. Now, who are these big players? I have here the top 10. As I said, Youku often called the YouTube of China. In fact, Youku is not as all-dominating as YouTube is in the rest of the world, but still the numbers are staggering. These numbers are from August last year. People spent within 1 month 89,000 years of watching aggregated video content on Youku alone, and across the other sites. So here's the iQIYI homepage as an example. So you see what it looks like. It's much more professional content. You see TV shows being advertised on the right-hand side. Going to Youku, similarly, very professional content, but what we also can notice, it is a little bit over-monetized for Western standards. I have never seen such a homepage take over on YouTube, for example. Here you actually have to click away these 3 people to get to the video list behind it. But again, you can see even in the background, it's all professional content. And that's actually generally true across the board. You have much less of the funny cat videos and watch me jump into the pool while the pool's frozen sort of things. It's much more professional. 70% is professional produced content where the video sites purchase the copyrights. This is where you get to see The Big Bang Theory used to be super popular until it got banned last year. Now the House of Cards just started playing on Sohu. And the big video sites also increasingly start developing their own content. And about 20% is user-generated. So for you as brand marketers, that means you don't have to worry about so much about what context your video runs in. There's not really porn or promoting violence or these sort of things. The Chinese government does a pretty good job of keeping that out. But what you want to look out for is what kind of ad formats you run on. So in the West, we've seen even brand marketers increasingly turning towards in-banner video. That's where a video player is playing inside a space reserved for a display banner. But in China, that format has been overused in very spammy kind of ways, so brands tend to shy away from it. Here you see this kind of pop-up that's stuck in the bottom corner of your browser. No matter how much you roll, it will always overlap the content behind it, and it's advertising some game, online game or something. Here's another example, advertising some magic potion to help you with your pee, your urination. Here is another game, and this is on Baidu even, so even on very high-end premium sites you see that. And it's also a game again. And here is my favorite example. You see there is a Nivea ad. That's obviously a brand ad playing inside this banner. I don't think Nivea intended it to play that way, because no matter how you scroll, you will only move the page behind it, but you will never get to see more than that little corner of the Nivea ad. So much better regular pre-roll apps, pre-roll ads. Those are the ads that usually work or run before the actual video content rolls. And that's generally quite brand safe because the context is brand safe. But one more thing to keep in mind, because there are so few players in that, so few video publishers, and at the same time the demand for video is so high, many of these premium video publishers are ridiculously oversold, and it's not uncommon to see up to 4 of those 15-second ads stacked up together and running in a row. And users, of course, when they see that counter there, they just go do something else, right? They check their email, they read up on some news, and then they come back a minute later when the video is ready. So another big topic, of course, that we've all been talking about here is multi-screen and mobile. 90% own multiple screens. Out of those, 81% regularly use multiple devices. 75% regularly use multiple devices for watching video, and 60% use multiple devices for watching video every day. Now, these numbers obviously are not across the entire population of 1.3 billion people in China. Not every farmer in some rural province owns multiple devices, but this study was done over the top 24 cities in China, 24 largest cities. And unless you're Procter & Gamble selling toothpaste, those 24 cities is where you want to be. Now let's take a closer look at what these multiple devices are. Of course, PC is still dominating, but about a third of the people use mobile phones as their primary device, not just occasionally, but as their main primary device of watching video content. And the rest is split between tablets and connected TV. We heard yesterday how people use their phones even in the bathroom, watching video, sitting in the subway, watching video, even walking around, watching video. Is there anyone who can speak Chinese? There has to be somebody who can speak Chinese in the audience. What does it say? Can you help us? Okay, exactly. When walking on the stairs, don't watch at your phone, because that has become so prevalent. People are bumping into each other, people are falling down the stairs because they're literally watching videos while walking around. So, and that trend is only going to continue. PC usage numbers have been somewhat stagnant, and mobile is going to continue on its march forward. Mobile as a video device. So now for you as a brand marketers, how are you going to interact with this complex fragmented system where you have multiple types of devices? There's mobile phones, connected TV, online, multiple sites. How do you do it? The old way is, of course, you send out requests for proposals, you get a proposal back, then you have to send out UIO, you have to email tags around, and you get your reports emailed back, and they're all in different formats from different vendors, and it's just a huge headache. It's very time-consuming, it's error-prone, and so almost out of necessity in the US and then also in Europe, a new way of doing this emerged, and that's called programmatic buying. And when used for brand advertising, we call it programmatic branding, meaning using software technology to execute digital marketing campaigns whose primary objective is brand related. And how that works in reality is a little bit like this. In the US or here in Europe, you have these thousands of sites we saw earlier being hooked into an SSP. It's a supply-side platform, or sometimes also called ad exchange. And say a user goes to CNN, watches a news video. While the page is still loading, before the news video plays, the opportunity to show that one ad to this one user at this particular point in time is being put up for auction on the SSP. The SSP will send a bid request to connected bidding engines called DSP. Now, if a SSP is a supply-side platform, what's DSP? Demand-side platform, exactly. You win 1 free hour watching videos, advertising videos online. So the demand-side platforms are essentially bidding engines. They will evaluate the bid request, look at what campaigns they have running right now, will calculate how much it's worth to show the ad to this particular user. They send back a bid request. They send back a bid response to the auction platform, the SSP. The SSP selects the highest bidder, and that campaign gets to show the ad. And all that happens within milliseconds. By the time the CNN page finished loading, that's already done. And every time the user clicks reload or clicks on a new video, it happens all over again. That has the system, the interfaces between the publishers and the SSP, and between the SSP and the DSP have developed and matured quite a lot. They're very mature already these days in the West, but in China, that system, this programmatic buying system, has been resisted for a long time. But now, really just about in the last year, maybe year and a half, due to pressure from advertisers and agencies who are looking for a more effective way of managing these campaigns, the Chinese publishers also started to implement these exchanges. But of course, do it a little bit differently. So what they did is mostly build private exchanges. And a private exchange means, first of all, it only has inventory of that particular respective publisher. So on the iQIYI exchange, you only get iQIYI inventory, nothing else. And private also means that you as an advertiser still need to have a private deal with the publisher. And you need to agree on certain volumes, certain pricing models, and whatever it is. And now, as an advertiser, now you may ask, then if I still have to make these phone calls and deal with these companies directly, what's the point of using the programmatic buying platform? I can just send them my video and email it directly to Youku, right? And here comes in a comment or a question I heard yesterday from Tiziana, the lady from Luisa Via Roma, exactly. And she, in the Weibo session, she asked, how do I know these numbers are real? I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that exact same question from my clients in China. They say, we deal with these companies, Youku, Tencent, Baidu, and then we get an email, we get a report emailed back to us, an Excel spreadsheet that comes in a month later, and how do I know these numbers are real? And you learn very quickly that almost nobody trusts anybody in China, and so it's very good. It's very beneficial to have a neutral third-party platform, a referee that can help you determine where your campaign actually ran. And our technology, we can detect things like you saw earlier in the Nivea example. We can tell if your ad ran into a banner space. We can tell if the user clicked into a different browser window, if the video player was rolled out of view, or even if the sound was turned on or turned off. We can report that back to you on a side-by-side level, and we can also optimize your campaign against these statistics. And of course, it gives you access to all of these private exchanges in one place. And we actually see some of this, let me go back to these slides, this kind of called real-time buying, real-time bidding model. We see some of that emerging with kind of second-tier video sites in China. The ones that come like beyond the top 10 we saw earlier, some of them, they don't have their own sales force, they don't have the resources to build a private exchange, so they use the RTB, real-time bidding system. And you can combine all that inventory for wider reach and reach your audiences across many different devices. Another big benefit is, of course, frequency capping. So if you're a brand, you don't want to leave your your customers with a bad impression, right? But if you do these buys manually, you buy a campaign on Youku and another one on Baidu, there's no way to tell if a user watches some videos on Baidu first and then goes over to Tencent and watches some more. You may end up hammering the same guy over and over with your same ad. And so the same person gets to see your ad like 10 times or 9 times while you're missing out on those 4 other guys. If you use one unified platform, you can spread your budget much more evenly, and you can make sure that you don't end up with annoyed users and that you reach a much wider audience. So to wrap it up, using these systems, you can combine the brand impact and scale of TV with the targeting and measurability of digital. It makes setting up campaigns super simple, it keeps them more effective, and it holds us and the publishers more accountable to your advertiser dollars. That's about, there's of course a lot more about online video, so if you have more questions, if you want to know more about the competitive landscape, geographic distribution, any of these things, please feel free to find me, but in the interest of time, I have to wrap it up here. So I hope it was helpful for all of you. Okay. Laura tells me we do have time for some questions. Is there anyone? It's amazing. It seems like I explained it quite clearly. I like it.
I've got the same question as the previous question. How much money are we talking about to launch a minimum campaign?
So the answer for that is not that straightforward, of course. Like in China, like I said on this one slide, you have to deal with most of the, I mean, you want to run on the premium publishers, right? You want to run on Youku, Baidu, Tencent. So you will have to deal with them directly. And what that deal looks like, it really depends on your negotiation skills with those guys. Generally, they will look at who you are. If you're a very well-known brand, they will not even talk to you until you open your wallet really wide. If you're a smaller player, then maybe they're a little bit more accommodating price-wise or volume-wise. But typically, these deals include a specific volume of ad impressions at either at a floor price, so a certain minimum, or even at a fixed price. If you are a smaller brand, what you can do is run on the real-time RTB model, the real-time bidded model. Now, let me go back to that one. So in that one, you will probably not end up playing on Youku and Baidu, but you may end up reaching the exact same audience, the same people on other websites like Baomihua and Wuliu.com and whatever their names are. One thing to keep in mind, though, that even I said this RTB model is slowly emerging in China. One thing I forgot to mention at the top 10 site earlier, the top 10 list, you know, overseas you saw 100,000 sites in our system. In China, after these top 10, there is maybe another dozen or so. And then it drops off very quickly. There is really there is not much more, simply because of these licensing restrictions. So you can run on the RTB model. Then how much you end up paying really depends on your campaign parameters, because the pricing is calculated in real time every time somebody watches that video. You can, of course, set parameters like I don't want to pay more than $5 CPM or 10 or whatever it is. But I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think, on average, if you do a direct buy on Youku or Tencent, a nationwide buy, including tier 2, tier 3 cities, you're looking at maybe between $3 and $5 CPM. It changes very quickly when you go into and say, I only want to reach Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou. Because then you end up in this oversold way where, you know, 4 ads in a row, everybody wants to advertise there, and prices immediately go through the roof, up to 10, sometimes even $20 CPM, are not unusual. And also, if you say, I want to play on Voice of China, right? One of the most popular, probably the most popular TV show. It's of course also broadcast on the internet, and prices there will be a lot higher. So it's a question that there's no simple straight answer. We would have to look at your specific situation, the campaign you want to run, the sites, the kind of audience you want to reach, and then I can give you, a better answer. Okay.
Thank you, sir.